Greetings and welcome, one and all. I am Dr. Wolf, and this is the Making of Luna's Therapy Visit live stream as part of Horses at Home convention. I've been looking forward to this for at least a couple of months now, actually much longer, because every time Mimi would send me a work in process, I'd see like, oh my goodness, this is going to turn out so wonderfully. And I'm glad that we're finally here all together and we've got to see all the wonderful audience response on this wonderful project. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. First up, I'd like to introduce Starbat, who has been helping me write the scripts for every single one of the show character A Moment with Dr. Wolf sessions. You want to say hi, Starbat?
Hello, everybody. Yeah, it's been a pleasure working with Dr. Wolf on these scripts. They're always really exciting to try and get inside the headspace of these canon characters, and yeah, I'm hoping to do more in the future too.
Excellent. And through some auditions, we managed to bring on Obab Scribbler. Can you tell us, Scribbler, what your thought was when we first announced we were doing a Luna therapy visit?
Well, I first of all thought, yay, I can audition for something, because I used to always miss the audition dates. They always seemed to pop up when I was either not in the country or doing something else. They're like, yay, finally, one I can actually audition for. And it happened to be Best Moonbutt. So I was very happy about that. And I spent a good 2 hours recording auditions and editing them together online.
2 hours for just that one audition? I had no idea that it took that much effort, honestly. It sounded so natural coming from you.
That's the magic of acting, Doctor.
Yes.
Loads of effort to make it sound effortless.
Yes. All right. And finally, we have the wonderful artist, Mimi7, who not only put together these beautiful images and even animation for the Luna therapy visit, she actually did all the editing for the video itself.
So, yeah, hi, I'm Mimi. I did, as Dr. Wolf said, I did artwork and editing for Luna's therapy visit. And I guess I'm here to show the method to my madness at that, so.
Well, it didn't seem quite so mad to me. It looked rather beautiful when it finally came out, honestly.
Oh, thank you.
I am immensely grateful that you contributed your wonderful art talents.
You're welcome. It was fun to make. It was a good experience, and it was good to get a lot of work and editing and playing with different brushes and effects in Photoshop. So.
Well, I'm sure you'll be showing us a lot more of that process later on in the live stream. But for starters, I did want to thank the audience for all the wonderful feedback when the video was released just yesterday. This was something we were very much looking forward to. And to be honest, there's always that little thought at the back of your mind that when you release this major project that multiple people have put so much effort into over the course of months, are people really going to like it as much as you do? There's always that fear in the back of your mind when you're making these things. I'm sure someone like Scribbler could really attest to that kind of fear.
Oh, yes. Scribbler can definitely attest to that one.
Well, Starbat, why don't you tell us a little bit about the original scripting process? This was probably back in, what was it? In early fall when we were scripting this together?
Yeah, I guess it must have been. I guess it was not too long after. Yeah, it would have been a couple months after we'd finished the Twilight project. We'd actually gone through the interview process and writing process for Spike and Maud, and that was under our belts at that point. And so it felt like a good point to begin to think about doing the Princess of the Night. I wanted Luna to feel like a special case, obviously. She was our first princess that wasn't Twilight. I wanted it to be a little bit different in that way because, and that's where I got the idea that it should actually take place in a dream. And and since obviously that goes in line with Luna's MO, so to speak. And I like the idea of the whole video ending with Dr. Wolf waking up after the dream and seeing Luna, or the moon, I should say, identifying her as Luna, the moon as Luna. And I thought that was a nice romantic note to end the video on. And so that's how we got the idea that it should take place in a dream. And I guess that's where we kind of got the idea that there should be some pretext or excuse for Luna to want to enter Dr. Wolf's dream. And that's where we got the idea that there should be some issue that Dr. Wolf is bringing to the table as well. And yeah, that was another reason, another way that that made the script different, was that it was more of a two-way conversation now between Dr. Wolf and the visiting character, whereas before it's always been just Dr. Wolf helping the guest, right? So, yeah, and people have been commenting on that as well, that this is almost Dr. Wolf's therapy visit as well as it is Luna's.
To be honest, I did want to have Dr. Wolf in distress so that Luna would come to visit his dream in the first place. And a lot of that has really hit very close to home for me, because this is a very real struggle that I'm still going through, that I still deal with on a day-to-day basis. And it is something that in my moments of sadness is something that's very, very difficult to forget, to just put aside. And like the video says, keeping yourself busy, especially in service of others, goes a very long way in giving you a different perspective in life and showing that, hey, maybe not everything is all about what you think you need. I've often said that we don't always know what is best for ourselves. This is something that requires a lot of going back and forth between yourself and understanding that what I think would be best for my life is not necessarily what life really needs most from me. And that's a very difficult concept. It's not necessarily supposed to be about putting all of yourself aside just to serve those around you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've noticed that there are a lot of people in the world who feel that if they aren't focusing on themselves pretty much most of the time, if not all the time, then what's the point of worth living? And I'm trying to think that a script like this is showing that there is more of a middle ground, especially in the case of Luna. I thought it was wonderful that between Starbat and I, we managed to find something that Luna and Dr. Wolf shared pretty closely when you think about it.
Yeah, I like the idea that I kind of made the comparison between Luna and Troubleshoes from the Appaloosa's Most Wanted episode, where in the same way that Troubleshoes didn't know where he fit, or how his role was supposed to go in life, he had to discover that, or had to what he thought it wasn't what it really was, or it wasn't where his passion really was. And so I thought that Luna would be in a very similar situation, where she thought she wanted the fame and the adoration that Celestia would get in her role, but that she actually had a very different role to play that she was more suited to, and that if she could figure out how to incorporate that or live by that, she would find that she was actually going to be more fulfilled in this service that she performs in Pony's dreams, rather than trying to usurp or just be another Celestia. And yeah, so that kind of playing with Luna's expectations, and actually, Dr. Wolf, you made a comparison between your Dr. Wolf, the character, and Luna, and also Doctor Strange, because Doctor Strange had come out fairly recently when we were drafting this script as well.
Yeah. One of the main themes for Doctor Strange is that it's not about you. And that's where the line that
you wanted to use that line exactly
is so very poignant. It's actually a bit of a surprise that we found something that was so new out in movie theaters that had such a deep meaning for this script that we were putting together.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I did want to mention, Starbat, because you've been helping me script out these individual character sessions all the way from the beginning with Fluttershy. And
Yes.
you even did the artwork for the Fluttershy therapy visit, as well as the Twilight
Yes.
Sparkle therapy visit.
Yes.
I have to honestly say that your dialogue is consistently getting better with every one of these new scripts.
Right. Well, I suppose I have, with practice, obviously, been getting better. I also feel like Luna, well, I really enjoyed writing Maud. She's a really fun character because I've got a little bit of that dry personality too. But I also have a tendency to be a little bit pretentious in my writing. And so the grandiose, regal language of Luna came very easily to me as well.
Well, thank you again for all of your hard work here, Starbat. And yeah, I'm looking forward to doing even more character scripts in the future.
Yeah, a character like Pinkie Pie is a lot more challenging, though.
Oh, yeah. Pinkie Pie was a big challenge for both of us because
Yes.
she's so extroverted.
Yeah.
It's so very difficult for an introvert to write what an extrovert would talk about. All right. Let's shift the focus a little bit over to Scribbler. You still with us, Scribbler?
I'm still here.
Lovely. Okay. Now you've been a part of YouTube for way longer than I have. You put in together way more videos than I have, and you probably worked with, I don't know, you've probably worked with more people in your projects than even I have. Isn't that right?
Quite possibly. I have a chart of all the people that I've got current collaborations with, and there's probably about 200 different people on it. So, yeah.
Doesn't surprise me in the least. So
I'm very fortunate.
What is your experience with some of these bigger projects, the kind that take like 6 months to finish from start to finish?
To be honest, I'd be very lucky if any of my projects took a mere 6 months from start to finish. Like No Place Like Home has taken 2 years to get one episode out.
Yeah.
Which you know, Dr. Wolf, because you are part of it.
It's a small part. I'm there, but I'm a small part.
Oh, you just wait. But organization is the thing that tends to make a lot of long-term projects fall down. And it's something that, because I've got a lot more experience, I am a lot more used to keeping everything compartmentalized and keeping everything organized from like a central standpoint. To be honest, for me, one of the major things that's always been an issue has been trusting other people to take over major roles within organizations. So the way that you and Starbat have been sharing scripting, for example, I would find that very, very difficult. But I had a head of art from No Place Like Home who does all the artwork stuff, because I was spread too thin. So a major thing that I tend to find is organization and trusting other people to take over some of it is a major facet of these larger projects, especially if they're spreading across more than one medium. Like in this case, it was video and audio. So you had sort of the scripting process, but also then the acting, the organization of another voice actor. And then Mimi's animation was just a step above. I couldn't even imagine what it would be like to try and keep on top of that one, Mimi. It's like, if I wore a hat, I'd say hats off to you. But that's the major thing that I keep coming back to, is organization is so important when it comes to this kind of thing. Ta-da. Pearls of wisdom that everybody already knew.
Your mic is there, yeah.
Sorry about that. Okay, I just barely noticed. You mentioned earlier, Scribbler, that it took you 2 hours before your audition for Luna's therapy visit actually met your standard, what you were hoping to achieve. Mm-hmm. Is that usually what happens with most of your projects?
When I'm recording for other people, I tend to take a lot more care than when I'm recording for myself, because what I tend to do is I tend to narrate stories and then bring in other voice actors to play the character parts. So there's not that disconnect between pulling someone out of the story of hearing my voice narrating it and then hearing my voice acting in it. But when I'm acting for somebody else, I know that the idea of immersion kind of falls on the shoulders of the voice actors, and therefore I have to take a lot more care. So when it comes to something like an audition and you try to be as show accurate as possible, yeah, that's why it took so unbelievably long, because I was trying to make sure that not only was the acting intact, but that the impression of the original voice actor was intact, which is very hard to do.
Can imagine.
Well, you have a wonderful Luna impression. I mean, seriously, sometimes listening to this project, it sounds eerily just like Tabitha St. Germain right out of the show.
Thank you.
Honestly, though, when we first showed you the script for this Luna project, and this was months ago, I don't know how much you remember, but can you tell us what your first impressions of what Starbat and I had written, what the character meant to you back then?
I can tell you exactly what my first thought was, and that was, oh, thank goodness they haven't tried to put in lots of these and thous. Because I've played Luna in quite a few projects, and the one thing that pops up most with her dialogue is when people are trying to write it in this sort of faux Shakespearean, and they don't know how Elizabethan grammar works. And I do, because that's kind of part of my real life job, is that I have to be familiar with that kind of thing. So I'm always quite grateful when people don't do it, because it's better not to attempt it at all than to give her more of a regal, formal speaking style in a modern, like, rather than attempting Shakespearean and not getting it right.
Right. Well, it would have made sense for her to talk more in that Shakespearean way in season 1 or earlier on, but this is supposedly a year or two after Luna eclipsed, right? And so presumably behind the scenes, she would have actually learned to speak in a more modern vernacular, right? So that's what I was trying to capture. We were trying to capture.
I think it came across very well. That was one of the things that I noticed straight off the bat, was that it was very clearly Luna. The things that she was saying were things that Luna would say, but it felt more natural than that sort of faux Shakespearean version.
What were your thoughts on the message we were trying to convey, though, when you were first reading the script a few months ago, Scribbler?
It was one, actually, that at the time that I read the script, it was one that kind of resonated with me as well. The idea of being happy with your role in life, as opposed to wedding yourself to a goal that you've always had but is beyond your grasp, and therefore not being happy. There's an old phrase that I used to love that is, happiness is not having what you want, it's wanting what you have. And the script seemed to very much reflect that idiom. And at the time, I was going through sort of a major change of leaving my job. And I'd always wanted that particular job. So the script very much reflected what I was feeling at the time of, I can't do that thing that I always wanted to do. So maybe I should just try and find the best in what I am going to do.
And since then, you've actually moved halfway across the world, isn't that right?
To Australia.
Yes, I'm in Australia right now. And it's 10 a.m. for me here, and it's all evening for everybody else. I'm in the future.
10 a.m. Sunday morning?
Yes.
Wow. It's future Scribbler.
The future looks exactly like the present.
Well, how is Australia working for you nowadays? I'm sure there's a few people in the audience who are curious.
It's so hot here. It was I think it was last Saturday. It was 38 degrees in the shade, and literally the day that I left England, it was snowing. So it's like the contrast was amazing. But it's been lovely. We've only ever had one rainstorm since I got here, which, as a Brit, was a very strange not to have to worry about the rain every single day. But I've been really enjoying it, like exploring all around Western Australia. And I saw kangaroos.
Maybe I ought to go to
jumped them.
All
I
right.
definitely recommend coming here. It's very fun.
One of these decades, maybe. It's going to be quite the trip. Maybe not quite as far as you had to travel, but yeah, still quite the trip going all the way down to to Australia. All right.
I'm hoping to come to Burlington in the summer, so I'm sort of traveling more in your direction that time.
You're coming to what?
BronyCon, hopefully.
Oh, you're coming all the way back to BronyCon. Wow. Oh, well, I'd love to meet you face to face again. I think we did meet face to face BronyCon year and a half ago, was it?
2015.
Yeah, year and a half.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's turn the attention over to Mimi, who once again provided some wonderful artwork and animation and even editing. You even chose the background music to help accentuate the emotion. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it was all of the music pieces were by, I think Miyuji was his username. And he was actually the same musical artist that did a lot of the piano music for Remnants of a Beautiful Day, one of the video games that you voiced in, Dr. Wolf.
Well, that was something I was actually not aware of. That's a
Yeah.
bit surprising, but in a good way.
Yeah, so it was fun, like finding a lot of the music pieces for it, just finding what works and all these lovely pieces. So I guess sort of jumping into the art process for this.
Yes. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who would love to see what you do on your computer, how it actually works from start to finish.
Okay. Well, I think first of all, I want to mention the 3 core critical art aspects to making the other video I made. Very late nights, many Game Grumps marathons and Brony music marathons, and a whole lot of coffee. So...
Well, I'm not one who drinks coffee, so I wouldn't know, but I could tell that Scribbler had a good laugh out of that last line.
I drink my coffee black.
This is something I know so well.
yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and screen share.
Please do.
Okay. Let's...
Love your background.
Thank you. It was
All right, let's shift it so it just stays on what's on your desktop for a bit. There we go. Yeah, lovely desktop artwork. Very funny stuff.
So I used Photoshop and Premiere Pro for this whole thing. Okay. I like using Photoshop because it's really easy to use, has a lot of bells and whistles to make everything nice and pretty. For pretty much the entire like shading process, pretty much my lifeline in getting the smooth transitions from the light to dark. And one little trick that I learned in Photoshop while making this project was that you can do animations in it, like in Photoshop itself. So let's see, does this one have? Yeah, maybe. I think it has the animation part. So yeah, you can sort of make a little timeline in all of the Photoshop documents to make the animation directly. And if it will go, yeah. So yeah, see how it's sort of animating. Frames per second is kind of low, but...
I think it's lovely that you put a little glow around the leaf itself as it's tossing on the wind.
Oh. Photoshop effects, they're very helpful. Now, for the backgrounds, it wasn't so much as the characters where it had a plan. for pretty much all the backgrounds, that was just me going crazy with different brushes, color manipulation, layer effects, etc. For the first few backgrounds, let me see if so for the backgrounds like this one, that was pretty much me finding whatever brush strokes and different brush tools that I could find in Photoshop and experimenting with them. So I would say that's one recommendation I have for really growing as an artist is don't be afraid to experiment and leave your usual routine and just play around with untreaded territory.
To be honest, that works for voice acting too, is don't stick to what you know, do experiment. So it's a good lesson across all creativity.
Yeah.
There was actually a point where Starbat wasn't quite sure he could write believable script dialogue for individual show characters.
Oh, yeah. But
he discovered something new about himself when originally he was just drawing artwork for a moment with Dr. Wolf. And then as we were talking one day, hey, why don't we try doing this? Why don't we experiment and see what comes out? And nowadays you're putting together Luna's therapy visit that just sounds so natural and emotional and just uplifting.
Well, thank you very much. I certainly tried my best. I think we took, how long did it take us to really polish it out when it was finished? Was it about a week that it took us?
Probably a week and a half at most, but we would keep coming back to it. We'd write about a page to a page and a half in one evening, and then the following evening we'd go back and tweak it a little bit and then add another half page beyond that kind of thing. It was just a process over this night and this night and this night.
Yeah, and then I would go back and I'd weigh exactly what words work the best and what phrasing works the best, and I kind of polished it up towards the end. Yeah.
I'm
Well,
curious.
process.
What
Yeah.
was the actual process for script writing? Were you did you have a Google Doc open and you were both working on it, or did you discuss it and then one of you wrote at the same time? Or
Well, basically, Dr. Wolf, he is the one who determines the overall direction that the script will take. Like, we kind of have a discussion about this, but Dr. Wolf kind of outlines for my own perspective what kind of message or moral he wants to go for, what the overall direction of the conversation is going to be, and then I try to write the character around that direction. Sometimes I'm online, but Dr. Wolf is not online, but I want to work on it. So what I do is I'll write a line for Luna, and I want to get to this next point in the conversation. So, but in order to get there, I kind of have to imagine what Dr. Wolf would say, and then write Dr. Wolf's lines for him, and then write Luna's lines after that. And of course, Dr. Wolf would go back and make sure all his lines agree with him. And then he'll add his own thoughts as well, or he'll tweak Luna's lines or tweak his own lines until we get something that we're both satisfied with. And yeah, that's pretty much the process until we get to the end. And the end is usually, we're aiming for around 5.5 pages of single-spaced script.
Sounds about right. Mimi,
Mm-hmm.
you had shown me several weeks ago a bunch of Easter eggs that you had placed in the background of this project. And quite frankly, some of them are really fun. So I'm hoping that you might be able to show us a couple of them here today.
Mm-hmm. I can most certainly do that. So I created this.
Rule number 26 of A Moment with Dr. Wolf. All things destroyed are immediately replaced afterwards, no matter how much of an eyesore they are. See Fire Rose and Harmonious Relationships.
That's been there for like every single Moment with Dr. Wolf that I did the artwork for. That's been there. That little face thing.
Nice little callback, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And here's this one. So, well, we're on the topic of dream theory, so why not go all out psychodynamic, am I right?
Yeah.
So yeah, this is one of the original 10 ink blots introduced by Carl Jung way back in the day. I'm a psych
Uh-oh.
really near and dear to my heart.
Isn't that a Rorschach? Maybe I'm mistaken. Like a Rorschach?
It is.
Yeah.
It is a Rorschach.
Okay.
Oh, this one's particularly fun. And Vladimir collects ceramic unicorns. Ding.
I don't think I'm in on the joke here. What are you guys referencing?
This is actually from Tangled. It's a Disney film from several years back. And it's when the mercenaries are singing in their bar about, I had a dream once. I was way down Eden's Side, I've got a dream. And one of the mercenaries, one of the biggest mercenaries, he takes these teeny tiny little ceramic unicorns and boops their noses and then smiles. And that's the line from that song. Vladimir collects ceramic unicorns.
Wow.
I'm curious how many people in the audience actually picked up on that.
And so for this next one, a lot of people in the comments section for both the teaser video and the actual video mentioned Silverquill and his fanboyish tendencies for Princess Luna.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it also came up during the audition video. So I'm just like, well, I guess Silverquill should be in there.
He would absolutely be among the crowd cheering Luna on. Yes.
So the next one is not so.
Did show this Easter egg to Silverquill during PonyCon in New Jersey, and he was pleasantly surprised and very appreciative that you would think of him for this project, even if it is just a little Easter egg for a few seconds in the background, Mimi. So directly from him, he does appreciate it.
Good to know. And then the last one wasn't necessarily an Easter egg, but I really liked the art style that Ethel Harbinger did for Dr. Wolf's Moment with Dr. Wolf with Starlight Glimmer. So I kind of took some of that art style and then incorporated it into here. So yeah, that's pretty much it as far as Easter eggs.
It's good to know that some A Moment with Dr. Wolf artists actually take inspiration from other A Moment with Dr. Wolf artists.
Yeah.
In fact, Starbat, I think you were the one who started heavily introducing plushies in the background.
Yeah, I think I went a little bit overboard on
Dr.
that.
Wolf offices.
Yes.
And so many other artists have wanted to put their own little plushies in the background ever since. I think it was you who started it.
Oh.
But I have to go back and double check to be sure. I'm pretty sure you were the one, though.
Somebody actually commented, Dr. Wolf is turning ponies into plushies, and that's why there's so many plushies around.
Oh, okay.
Gosh.
All right, yeah. Well, I suppose technically the very first Moment with Dr. Wolf that got released with Voice of Reason, that involved a plushie that he could throw all over the office. So maybe that's technically the first one, but
Yeah.
Starbat made it as an Easter egg.
Well, that's when I kind of got the idea from it. And also the whole Fluttershy, Flutterwolf thing, I wanted to include that, and just one thing led to another, and like I said, I think I went a little bit overboard on it.
Hey, Scribbler, what sort of Easter eggs do you ever sneak into your own projects? Can you remember any?
Mine tend to be less art-based and more snuck into the audio. There's one, for example, in A Place Like Home, where it is a sort of totalitarian-esque Earth Pony society, and Applejack has to give her code in order to make a phone call, and her code is 1984. So I try and pull on my literary background for that one.
Very fun.
Seems quite appropriate since that book apparently has become very, very popular again. Had a resurgence of popularity recently, so hopefully more people will get the joke.
I hope so. Well, Mimi, was there any other little tidbits that you'd like to show us today?
Yeah, so in the video editing process, so I used Adobe Premiere Pro for it. It's definitely more confusing than other video programs I've encountered, but it has some nice effects in other programs. I wanted to talk a little bit about the animation in this project since it was my first time animating beyond the flipbook style animation in the corner of my algebra notebook. So drawn animation, so you can kind of see it slowly buffers. Say for panning effects throughout the video. Some animations were put together in Premiere, while others were animated in Photoshop and converted to a video within a video. And let's see. So the animation effect that I showed earlier in Photoshop, where was it actually? So that's here. GIF. And it's nice because you can just like from here you can move it or do whatever you want with it, and it doesn't, you don't have to like move each individual frame in order to do that. There's another thing I want to show. Now, I've seen a lot of to put together different puppets or different poses. They sort of have to move the characters like pixel by pixel into position. And with Adobe Photoshop, you don't have to do that. So what I mean by that is, say you want to take this and move it that way. Now, instead of taking each of these frames and then moving it to fit into position, you can just press copy, highlight all these, and then paste attributes, and it'll move everything for you. You don't have to do like that, like the nudging thing.
Impressive.
Wow, you're a pro at this.
Not quite. There's still a lot of things that I've yet to learn about Premiere Pro, but this was definitely a good opportunity for me to learn a lot of how to use the bells and whistles. So the project as a whole took between, I'd say, 100 and 150 hours. I didn't keep track of the exact time since I worked on it both a desk and on cars and trains or whenever I was waiting with just my laptop. So, thing that I wanted to say.
That shows a high level of dedication to your craft.
Most certainly, yes. Now let's try to do that part. There we go. Yeah, much better. All right. Big thanks to you, Mimi, for putting in the dedication to stay focused on this project for so very long. And it turned out so beautifully in the end. I mean, reading through the comments, especially yesterday morning, people were even relating some of their own personal stories about how this video has had a real effect on them and even lifting their spirits when they needed this kind of video to give them that emotional perspective. And I know that we couldn't have reached quite so many without your wonderful animation to really drive home that emotion.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm glad that
this project actually even encouraged you to step outside of your comfort zone and try something new. That's always a plus in my book.
I'm glad that I was able to really like help out with the project and even like help out in people's lives, which whatever way possible.
All right. Well, Starbat, what do you think we should be talking about next?
Well, let me just see here. Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like I don't know if I should bring this up, but maybe some people were not. I mean, there were a couple of ambiguous comments about exactly the way we'd phrase the moral of this video. Like maybe it sounded or came across like Luna was settling for something less. I don't. Some people took it that way, and I wanted to clarify that it's more a matter of Luna is going through a process of self-discovery where what she thought she wanted was not the real passionate thing that really speaks to her, and she's discovering that. And so sometimes we have to go through a process of, committing ourselves to one particular path and discovering that it doesn't really work for us for whatever reason, whether that's some physical limitation or some aptitude in our personality that doesn't really click with it. And then we realize that maybe a different path is more fulfilling for us. Maybe it's not what we originally intended, but through that process of self-discovery, through that process of making mistakes, so to speak, we discover what our true path is. And some people were saying, no, you should never give up on your dreams. You should always follow your passion, et cetera, et cetera. And I think there's truth in that, but I think what this video is getting at is that sometimes you can be unclear within yourself as to what you are truly passionate about. And then that process of self-discovery can guide you in the correct direction later. And you need to be prepared to let go of what you previously thought you wanted in order for you to discover where you really click and fit in. Does that make sense?
Really shine, yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of the message that I was hoping we could get across with the Luna video. And I think most people got that, but there were also some people that were kind of thinking that maybe we were saying that you shouldn't follow your passion necessarily, that you should just resign yourself to something that you aren't necessarily happy with, but which you have to settle for. And I wasn't really trying to say that, but some people were thinking that. What do you think of that, Dr. Wolf?
In many ways, it could seem like Luna did have to settle because it wasn't the life that she wanted most. She wanted to have what Celestia had. Mm-hmm. And in many ways, she still does have that desire. It makes sense that she would still have that desire. But if she had stuck on pursuing that one goal because it was what she wanted most in life, would she have ever discovered the wonderful talents that she has in serving ponies through their dreams now, in being able to bring them new perspective and new hope and new dreams the way she does now? If she was so hyper focused on just achieving that dream, she would have missed out on wonderful opportunities where she had talents she didn't even realize that she had. And that was a big part of what we were trying to express with this project. This is something that I have had to struggle with, as I've mentioned many times before. And for people who want more specifics, then you can go way back in the day to a project called A Moment with Dr. Wolf and Striving Onwards Without Your Dreams.
Yeah.
It is something that is very difficult to be able to understand and cope with. But if I had been so laser focused on the dream I wanted from when I was young and kept saying to myself, I am not going to give up until I achieve that dream, I would not have discovered these other great talents about myself. I would have closed myself off from these many wonderful opportunities. That is what I'm hoping that people will be able to take away from this, is that you don't always know what is best for yourself. And if you are so focused on just achieving that lifelong dream, that lifelong passion, if you don't let yourself be open to any other opportunities, you may be losing out to begin with.
Yeah. And sometimes, yeah.
Yeah,
We
I
have
think
to be able to evolve as people.
I think how I sort of related to it is I actually used to be an education major before becoming a psychology major. And for so many years, that's what I thought I was going to be doing. But sort of the more that I pursued that education major, the more I realized like it's a worthy goal, but I didn't feel like I was entirely right or prepared for it. And then just like fairly recently, I just switched my major to psychology, like within the past year. And ever since then, I'm just like, I love this. This is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Along the way in life, we often find new paths that turn out to fit who we are much better than our initial goals. And denying who we are, that can really lead to unhappiness. It can cause a lot of pain and a lot of frustration at our own mistakes and our inability to reach that goal. It can even result in self-destructive thoughts leading further and further into depression. And the self-imposed pressure to reach that goal can really swirl around us like leaves in a storm, making us feel trapped. And that, like leaves in the wind to relate to the video.
Yes, that imagery you used.
The leaf blowing on the wind near the end is a wonderful way to signify this message. And I am grateful that you decided to draw that, Mimi.
Thanks.
Scribbler, was there anything more that you wanted to say on this particular subject?
What I would say is actually quite, in some ways, a little bit depressing, and in some ways just realistic. The idea is that in real life, it's not like a narrative in a novel or a film or a TV show. We don't always achieve our dreams. However much we want them, we could be as dedicated as we want to be. We don't always achieve them. And to wed oneself to a dream that one has chased for years and years and years, but is not going to achieve, could actually be way more damaging than having the open-mindedness to accept a new dream. And also, as we grow up, we evolve as people.
Exactly.
Our dreams do change. I mean, when I was a kid, I was absolutely, my dream was to be a waitress on roller skates. And my dream evolved. If I had wedded myself to that one dream, I would be in a very different place today. You've got to be able to evolve as a person as you grow and as you grow up. Your dreams, by their very nature, do change. So while some people might sort of get offended by the idea of contradicting the widely held narrative of follow your dreams, chase your dreams, achieve your dreams, that is a good lesson for a lot of people. But it's not always the most realistic outcome.
Or even the most healthy one.
Don't. Yeah. I mean, some dreams that people want to achieve weren't particularly healthy dreams in the first place. So it's more realistic, this attitude of maybe the dream that you wanted in the first place should have the potential to evolve as you evolve as a person. I find that a healthier attitude, and also more of a positive representation of how to deal with shifting circumstances.
Well, thank you very much for that, Scribbler. Very wise words indeed. All right. We are drawing very close to the end of this live stream. And once again, I do want to thank Starbat and Scribbler and Mimi for all their excellent contributions to make this possible to begin with. And we're all very much looking forward to seeing what might be coming next. But with that thought in mind, we did want to mention one little thing that we have on the roster that's going to be, yeah, the main announcement is going to be another audition video coming out Monday morning. And I hope lots of people will be auditioning for this role. Starbat, why don't you tell people what character we've got next, since once again, you came out with a really impressive script in even shorter amount of time than the Luna script.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for that, Dr. Wolf. Yes, it's going to be Celestia, Princess Celestia. There were a lot of comments when the Luna video came out. There, when's Celestia coming? Everybody wants to see Celestia. Well, I was also, since we just finished our first princess since Twilight, I was also motivated. We should totally tackle Celestia. And so, Dr. Wolf, I think it must have been, what was it, last weekend that we started to hash out the Celestia script.
Yeah.
And we had a pretty good...
Less than a week ago that we started this.
Yeah, and it was maybe by Monday we had a decent backbone to it, and then we've been sort of adding to it and polishing it up, and I think I just added the final touches to it just the other day. And so I think we're ready to go now with the audition, and then I really look forward to seeing who comes forward to voice her. And actually, Mimi has agreed to do the artwork again for this one.
Yay!
Yay!
And we are very much looking forward to seeing what you come up with.
Mhm.
However, we understand that you are not able to start working on it right now. You have some commissions to get through right now. And I think it was you who suggested that maybe we could have it ready by the summer solstice, but
Maybe.
that may be not enough time, honestly, considering how long the Luna project took.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That would be okay. That'd be fine.
It would be perfectly okay if we don't reach that point, and if we do, it's fun to have that on Celestia Day, but just don't have anyone in the audience hold us to that. It's a goal to reach for, but I like to make sure that everybody who's working with me does not feel like they have to rush in order to finish something like right now, because I'm much more interested in quality over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got plenty of my own videos that I can keep releasing on my channel to give people those time. So big thanks to you, Mimi. I am very much looking forward to seeing what new skills you can bring to the animation department if you so decide to go that direction again.
Yeah. I'll see what I can do.
You take your time.
I shall certainly look forward to watching it.
Yeah, you have fun with it. All righty. Did we want to have anything else before we close out for the evening?
Is there going to be any Q&A before we close out or anything like that?
If you want to have a couple of people ask a question, I want to make sure we don't go too far over time, because there are other panels, Horses at Home convention, that are going on every hour. So if you go to HAHcon.com and look at their schedule, there's lots of other panels going on even right now and for the rest of the evening. So I'm hoping that, yes, we can answer maybe a couple of questions, but I don't want to go too far over time to have people missing out on other panels that are starting in the next 5 minutes.
Sure.
So if there are questions, let's see if there's any questions.
Ask us questions, please.
It takes a little while because when we, oh, there we go. Okay. Ben Wells asks, will you do Cadence as well to round out all 4 princesses, or have you thought that far ahead yet? I have to imagine that someday we will probably do a Cadence video, but there's way too many other characters that we've had requests for before we get to Cadence. So it's possible we'll get to Cadence, but don't expect it anytime this year or maybe even next year. I don't know.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about doing Cadence.
You wanted to do Cadence, Starbat?
No, I hadn't thought of doing Cadence.
You hadn't thought about it. Okay, that's what it is. Okay. Well, Starbat, why don't you find a question for us?
Well, let's see.
Somebody suggested T-Rex a moment with Dr. Wolf.
Oh, with
I might need a
T-Rex.
bigger office for that.
I'm trying to imagine how I could actually talk to T-Rex without him trying to scream at me.
How would you even set that up? There'd have to be some kind of portal to Tartarus or something. That Dr. Wolf.
Oh goodness, that'd be now maybe that's something Discord would do in order to watch T-Rex suffer some more. That sounds like something Discord would do for fun. It's basically saying, "Oh, I've got this friend who I'd like to have you talk to, just so I can see his expression."
When is Memories of Equestrian Wolf Chapter 4 coming?
I don't know yet. The art is still being worked on. It's just one artist, and it's a very big story. And like I've said before, I don't want to rush anybody who's working with me. I don't have to have something done by a specific point in order to make my channel work. I want to see something that will really, really resonate with people for months or even years to come. So I would love to see it, but I don't have to see it this month or next month. We just got to wait for the artist for whenever she has the time to get to it.
Yeah.
So just be patient.
Art takes a
It's been
long
recorded,
time.
but we'll see how long that takes to get all the artwork done.
Yeah.
Are there any male characters in the works for having a Moment with Dr. Wolf video? Well, we have Spike.
We have
who's in the
Spike,
works.
yeah. Spike has been completely scripted and recorded, and some of the artwork is ready that I've seen. But I don't know when that's going to be ready completely. I'm going to have to check on that again. But
Yeah.
that is a mail for a Moment with Dr. Wolf that is currently in the works.
But
And I know I've gotten hundreds of requests at least
For Spike.
for us to do Discord at some point.
Yes.
So
I
Yeah.
saw that one video too.
okay.
I imagine that's going to be like scripting the Pinky video because
Yeah, it's going to be
he's
like
even more
something
extroverted than her.
because Discord is all about the unexpected. It's all about just in the moment he has an idea, oh, I got to go do this. He has a very short attention span as well. So one of these days, Starbat and I would enjoy doing that, but we don't know how yet, not even remotely how.
Don't even know how to begin to get Discord to settle down and talk about himself.
Yeah.
Right.
We have to come up with motivations as to why he would come to Dr. Wolf in the first place. Or maybe we should have it, Dr. Wolf is suddenly pulled out of his chair and goes all the way across town. Hey, Doc, I want to have a chat with you. And I'm like, okay. I'll think of something.
Starbat and I will think of tail at this point.
Yeah. All right. So what other questions do we have? I would like to give one more question because it's already the time where we're supposed to move on. So last question for the evening. What's a good one?
Can I just answer one that came up before that literally it's a bit off topic, but it's one sentence answer. Somebody asked me whether or not I'm going to finish Playing with My Heart. I've written the last chapter. It's just being tweaked. Okay, there you go.
Okay.
That's a question I get a lot whenever I'm in live streams.
Yeah.
We have a question from Rockstar Dragon. How do you make your Moment with Dr. Wolf videos? I'm curious, and it's been on my mind for a while. First up, a guest and I will discuss, hey, I'd like to talk about this. I'd like to bring this particular topic to mind. Do you think you could get a discussion out of it? And I said, yeah, maybe we could make something work out of that. And usually the very first step is opening up a Google Doc, where my guest and I will just write our thoughts back and forth for about an hour to an hour and a half. And both Scribbler and Starbat have been guests on A Moment with Dr. Wolf, so they can attest to this. And once we have a finished script, we'll probably go back for a few minutes and tweak the dialogue to make sure it sounds natural when speaking it, because when you're reading something, it's not necessarily the same as when you're actually speaking it. And if everything meets with our approval, if we think it'll encourage good discussion amongst the audience, we'll record our lines. I'll edit the audio together. We'll have an artist come on board, and anywhere from a few weeks to a few months later, have all the artwork ready, and I'll edit it all together and upload it for everybody to see. It's a lengthy process, but it's worked pretty well for most people thus far, I hope.
What is it, 3 years now?
Oh, let's see. Yeah, it was last month, late February was the 3rd anniversary.
Wow.
How did I keep this series going for 3 years? I didn't even think I could keep it going for 6 months when I started it. I thought I'd run out of ideas. I thought that there wouldn't be enough guests. I thought there wouldn't be enough artists. I thought that people would lose interest. How did this go for more than 3 years? You never know what you're capable of until you try. Anyways, thank you for those questions. Thank you to everybody who has left those wonderfully positive comments on the Luna Therapy Visit video yesterday. I hope that's something that's going to be inspiring people for years to come. And again, big thanks to Starbat for always helping me to script these character pieces.
No problem. I enjoy it.
And big thanks to Obab Scribbler for supplying her wonderful voice talents, because honestly, it sounds like it comes from the show itself. It's that good.
Thank you.
And of course, big thanks to Mimi7 for the beautiful artwork and animation that really helps to drive home the deep emotion of this particular piece.
You're welcome. It was fun.
We're looking forward to more projects in the future. We'll see how those turn out, and let's hope that there is much more that we can discover about ourselves as we're stepping outside of our comfort zones and seeing what other talents we might possess. As per usual, thank you to one and all. I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.